Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Roman, and we have an exciting show in store for you. Please stay tuned for Warriors Talk with Rochelle coming up at 6 p.m. Joining us tonight is the Honorable Alderman David Moore, representing the 17th Ward on the South Side. Let's welcome back to the Drive, sir.
Man, thank you so much, Roman. It's always good to be here with you.
Please give intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station an update since the last time you were on the Drive.
Absolutely. So a lot has been going on, man. After I ran again for alderman, I won. I think that was probably one of the last times out here. Before that, I ran for Secretary of State. So it's been running back to back to back after falling short in the Secretary of State race because them pushing the time back of the election. Then I had to run for re-election for alderman. And then after that aldermanic race was over, then I had to start running for re-election for committeeman. And we had an opponent, unfortunately, one of the state senators who had just got into office told me he was going to come and run and take my aldermanic seat. Then he was going to come back and take my Senate. He's going to run and take my committeeman seat. Then he was going to come back and run and take my aldermanic seat. And then I told him, I said, hey, it's not my seat, it's the people's seat. Spent over $100,000 on the committeeman seat, an unpaid position, with the hopes of winning so he can use that same electorate to run against me for alderman. But God blessed it where we were able to win, didn't have to spend all of that money. Wasn't going to, because my position was if my work stood not speak for itself, can't no money speak for it. So I wasn't about to spend $100,000, and people know the work that we're doing out there, so they elected me by a nice percentage. So I'm happy about that. But even more, it's been the work that we're trying to do in the city council, man. And I was on WV, another station the other week, and what I was telling people about what's getting me and making my stomach hurt in this council is that we could be running a table for Black people. When you got 20 Black aldermen, you only need 26 votes to pass anything. We could truly be in a better position than we are. And unfortunately, collectively, we don't roll like that, and it's hurting our communities. We won't get this opportunity again, Roman. 5 or 10 years from now, we're not going to get this opportunity, or 20 years, we're not going to have this opportunity again.
Since you were on the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station, you had some major concerns about the city council decorum and unity. Do you think they have gotten better from a year ago?
From a decorum standpoint, from the last time the situation occurred with Alderman, I'm drawing a blank on his name, who was the mayor's, I just saw him.
Walter Barnett?
I just saw him leaving, Latino Alderman, the one that pushed Emma Mitz.
Lopez? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He was the mayor's,
Sergeant
floor leader. And I'm just drawing a blank on his name for some reason. I just saw him, and I just saw him at City Council as I was leaving. But since then, it's been some rockiness, but it's been a little better. They put some rules in place, some extra rules, not only with the aldermen, but also with the public, in which we're trying to follow. And so hopefully, we can maintain that respect and hopefully disagree without being disagreeable.
Will there be, this is the first year of Mayor Johnson, and all across the media, the first year. And you said just a few moments, it's iffy in the city council.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding the unity part
of the
city council,
of the Black members of the city council. Now, if you're talking about the city council as a whole, which you brought up in terms of the decorum, that was the city council as a whole. The unity part, I'm talking about the Black council, the leaders in the council.
Will there be a vote of no confidence regarding the mayor's performance by the city council soon?
I don't think so. I don't. I think what the you cannot say vote of no confidence when a mayor ran on a platform, whether you liked it or not, and or if you didn't listen well. The mayor is carrying out a lot of the things that he said he was going to run on. Um, I had some issues with those platforms. Not all of them. Some of them I appreciated.
What are
Uh,
some of those issues
s-
you had problems with?
the ones I had problems with going in was uh, the item we just put on the um, out for vote regarding making sure that we have the financial transaction. I mean, not the financial, the tax, the real estate transfer tax. I was about to say the financial transfer, the real estate transfer tax that the people voted down. And the reason why, under the Rahm Emanuel's administration, this was a tax that I was pushing for. After COVID, after our um, um, a lot of our developments downtown lost so much money and lost so much occupancy, we needed to support our business to build them back up before asking them for that real estate transfer tax. And so that was something I didn't agree with. I did, however, support it to put it on the ballot so that the people can have their voice. And the people spoke and they voted it down. And so it's other things in terms of what that he didn't campaign on, but he knew we was coming into it was this situation with the migrant crisis and all of the money that's going there. I voted against the $51 million. I voted against the $150 million that was in the budget. I voted against the $75 million that came up about 2 months ago in council, if it's not a month ago. And so those are the things that I did not agree with. But also, as we now want to look at the positive side, there's $1.25 billion GO bond, general obligation bond, that came before the council. Development is big to me. I tell people I am a welfare baby. I'm a Section 8 baby. I've been through those things, and I believe giving people a helping hand. But when you pu- pushing so many um, handout instead of hand up programs, that's what I have a problem with. I think we got to give people a hand up and not just a handout. And be there to help them when they need it. But let's build so that they can afford and buy the things that they need.
Here are some of the benefits the migrants are getting. One is $9,000 every 6 months. Two, paid cell phones and international cell phone services. Three, SNAP benefits, some with over $1,000 of SNAP benefits. Four, free health care benefits with county care. Five, free bus cards. They can get on the bus.
Mhm.
Some don't have any bus cards. They can just say, I'm a migrant, and they get on the bus. Why are these benefits are not given to the homeless people who represent 72% of blacks, people who have been living on the streets for years? However, the city council keeps on voting for it. They keeps on expressing it, and you haven't given these benefits to the migrants, but not the homeless. Why?
So let me address this, and so I can put it in fair content. I'll support the administration where I need to support them, but I will not support where I disagree. So this is a federal issue, and so anytime we're getting federal money or anytime we're getting state money through a when you say an emergency program, the city should never turn down those dollars, regardless who it's for. So that becomes a state and federal issue. But the city should always take those dollars because otherwise we can't do anything else with them. If they're saying this is particularly
But
for,
you can send them back. It's cheaper to send them back,
oh, send the people back or send the money back?
send the people back.
Okay, let's deal with the money aspect that you were talking about. I'm not sending that money back. Therefore, I would rather not give up city taxpayer dollars. So I'll rather go ahead and take the federal money because it's a federal problem. It's not a city problem. It's a federal problem. And therefore, I would rather take the federal money to help out on that. But most of the monies you're talking about, the 9,000 and all of that, is coming from the state and the federal, the little of it that came from the federal government because they haven't given much to the city or the state. And so most of the money you're talking about is coming from the state. The other part, in terms of the housing, the 50 million, the 75 and 150 million that I talked about, is the housing piece that's coming from the city. And that's the part that I did not support. You have to put the pressure back on the federal government. And by that way, because it's a Biden policy. It's a Biden policy, a failed Biden policy. So therefore, you have to put the pressure back on him and not make Chicago the place where everybody wants to be. When we was in briefings, the majority of the people saying we want to come to Chicago. Although New York has a high number as well, but people are saying we want to come to Chicago because what? We're laying out the red carpet here. You, I, for lack of saying this, you cannot make a bad situation comfortable for people. So right now we're dealing with more crime situations. We're dealing with more other police situations, more housing situations that's costing our taxpayer because we're making, or this administration had made a conscious decision that they want to, and it's a moral issue. It becomes a moral issue depending on where you're looking at. I look at it from a moral issue. I got to take care of home first. The mayor is looking at a moral issue. I got to take care anybody that's hurting standpoint. And so
It's a
and so
stroke of,
it is
but sir,
yes,
in all due respect,
absolutely.
it's a stroke of a pen for him, an executive order to stop it, to basically go to the Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, to put an injunction.
Absolutely. Other
But
mayor
why they're
other
not
mayor
doing it,
other mayors
that's more
mother ma- other
cheaper.
mayors have done it.
But
Mhm.
again, I talked to several attorneys. It's more expensive what we're doing now than allowing the courts to decide whether or not Texas is wrong or we should not be in the middle between federal and state matters. And we're not designed to handle this. It's not in the legislation in the state.
Absolutely.
I checked. I mean, people are having problems. Just like 2 weeks ago, which is frustrating people, immigration funding was passed. The city council approved $40 million. Some
No, that was
deficits in,
just that was just 75 million last city council. Wasn't 40, it was 75 million. The first one was 51 when the mayor first got in office. The second was 150 in the city budget, and the third was the 75 million.
so if this cycle is still going to continue and more migrants is on the way, and
Absolutely.
you know they're on the way tonight.
Right.
When this going to come to an end?
And that's so if I'm in this administration when this happens, what I do, and I said this before on this show and other shows, it's a Biden problem whether you want to send them back to Texas or send them to DC and put them on Pennsylvania Avenue and let the president deal with a problem that he created. You can do that. The mayor chooses not to. From his, where you want to say wrong or right, I'm not ready to get into the wrong or right issue. Um, that's his moral standpoint. My moral standpoint is I have to take care of home first. And that's my position. If I was mayor, they would never gotten comfortable here because they were like, man, you get to Chicago, and all they're gonna do is send you to DC. That's what they would have been saying if I was mayor. And so therefore,
Why send them to DC instead of sending them back to Texas and say, you do not dictate what goes on in the state of Illinois or my city?
because you got to understand, when you look at Texas, and he's just not sending them to Chicago. When you look at Texas, you're looking at a city where they're coming in at. It's just much smaller than Chicago. And so he's this governor, whether I agree with him or not, is feeling the pressures of, I am not getting help from the federal government. So I'm going to send them to places into this federal government act. That's all he's doing.
But he's playing politics, and you know he's playing
It's
politics.
I mean, it's partial. I'm sure it's partial politics, but it's also a reality. When you see in the city, I forget the name of the city in which they're coming into, they're
San
much.
Antonio,
That's much. No, it was another city too, other than San Antonio, much
mm,
smaller. Well, look at
El Paso.
yeah, and look at though even San Antonio, much smaller than Chicago. They can't handle that either, and they're not
But
getting the
why
resources, just like we're not getting the resources from the
is
federal government. Biden, who has the stroke of the pen to say, "Hey, close the borders," and he hasn't. Well, he finally did it, sort of,
well the reason
while they were already open. But Biden, he has to take a lot of responsibility for this.
he tried. He tried, and they listened to Donald Trump.
What you mean he tried?
He
No,
tried with a
his exact he did.
bipartisan bill, and
Okay, on the
with
congressional
on
side,
a
you're talking,
congression.
but
Yes,
I'm talking about on an executive order side.
he just
Biden,
recently did
he
an
just
executive.
finally did it after months and months of flooding, and so he gonna wait till we're hurting and bleeding to do it. He could have done it from the start.
Will the city council ever stand up to the mayor and say, where is this song and dance going to come to an end? Sign the executive order, force the AG to put some type of legislation, or the governor, some type of legislation, or the AG, put an injunction, put it in a court. We got to stop this because grandmom is affected by this. Students are now affected by this because it just seems like, and I'm looking at your budget is a shortfall. We're kind of in the blue. Now you're all way to the red now. And it's like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And blacks, including myself, are seeing immigrants. And I just want to say this. You saw this on social media. I hope you have. One migrant had an argument with a black woman, and they were having this discussion, and he had a hoodie said power to the people, and he yelled in the chambers, no more money for you, no more money for you. It broke social media in saying, is this migrant telling blacks there's no more money for you regarding community in the black community?
Right, right.
No more money for you when it comes to your grandma getting sick? No more money for her? No more we're in a situation right now that some people got to use every 6 months of SNAP benefits
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So does he have a point?
Does who have a point? That
The immigrant that yelled
Oh,
no
that's
more
it.
money for you,
No, he don't
meaning
have a.
for black
I
folks,
know. No,
because
he don't
in
have a point. I mean, he's seeing what's happening and been emboldened by not just the immigrants, but there are organizations that's been set up, and really a lot of um, left leftist progressives who have been always want to seem like they're helping black people, but always giving handouts, but they never fight with you when there's development or build or self-sufficiency. It's always handouts, and a lot of these organizations that whether it's activist organizations that this administration has been aligned with, the activist organizations that helped him get into office and put the money behind that. You got to understand, people do with a lot of people, not all, do with what put them there. And so it's these type of organizations that helped him catapult him um, into office. And so, getting back to your question in terms of the city council, again, we could always vote no. We could always vote no.
But you
Money,
haven't
we
really.
collectively and as the council. So there's enough what we call the socialists combined with some um, black aldermen who, as long as they getting what they getting, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. When we got 20 black aldermen, should nothing be moving until 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 we get our piece first. And we can easily get 26
But we
votes.
have not.
Reason why I'm not a member of the Black Caucus anymore. I'll work with them, but I'm not a member anymore because I can't be a part of something that's not helping our people and can't stick together for our people. I've said that publicly, I've said it privately, and I'm gonna say it over and over again. God did not call me here to stick with the status quo. I've told people that from the start when I got in office, I'm different. And I told them I'm not going to be one of them aldermen that's here and just be here for 10, 15, 20 years and stuff stay the same. I'm not the one. Before I sell out, I'll get out. And that's the bottom line. And I'm going to continue to fight for development, things that put our people to work, things that give our people jobs, and teach them to be self-sufficient.
This money will take away resources from your ward. This money will take away from Black organizations. Stop violence, stop the violence pieces, and so forth and so on that they have every summer. What you say to that money and those resources are taken away from your ward that you want to do and going directly towards the migrants.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's taken away in terms of those things are still getting funded. What is taken away from is the opportunity to build and do more that we could have done in our ward. I consistently asking for a field house at Ogden Park. Right now, our field house is like it's a prison building in Ogden Park. Talk costs about 35 to 40 million dollars to get that park, and that's what I've been asking this administration for. I just got an email somebody saying they want to try to get 2 million. I'll be responding back to that because don't tell me you going to the congressman when I've already gone to the congressman and I'm asking for more than 2 million from the congressman, meaning Congressman Davis. So don't tell me, administration, you going to ask for 2 million like you doing me a favor. I already gone to Congressman Davis, so I need you to come up with at least 10 or 15 million. But you can't even do that, but yet you gave 50 million. That's what takes away from my community. You gave 75 million. That's what takes away from my community. You gave 150 million in budget. That's what takes away from my community. Building it up. The other funding mechanisms, that stuff will still be funded. It's the opportunity where we have an opportunity to build up our communities that's not happening.
Goes back to my question that I asked you earlier. Why not have a vote of no confidence?
I don't want to vote no confidence in this mayor. I want to. There's other mayors that's done things, that I didn't like from a policy standpoint. Okay, so
But
I'm
this
not going
is
to take
going
this.
beyond
I'm
policy,
I'm
though.
not going to take this one issue and say a vote of no confidence. People have to listen when they are electing people to office. You have to listen. You got to believe people when they tell you. You just can't go in and say, "Well, I'm gonna vote because this person is black" and all of that stuff. I want a black mayor like the next person, but I always want that person that I know that's going to go along with those things that I know that are where I'm listening to my community of those things that they need.
A hypothetical. Let's say a Hispanic alderman will put on the floor a vote of no confidence to Mayor Brandon Johnson. How would you vote?
I wouldn't vote with him. I would not vote if a black person put it on. I wouldn't vote with them. I'm gonna go through this. This is a policy issue that I do not agree with the mayor on. There are some things, especially um, administrators that he's put in place. Sierra Boatwright, John Roberson, who's chief operating officer, people that I know that I can work with to help hopefully move some things. And so he's put those type of people in office. And I'm hoping, I'm disappointed he's not listening to Larry Snelling on this shot spotter issue. And he's put him in office, and Superintendent Snelling said this is a tool that I need, but this mayor has doubled down on that. I'm battling that right now, but still, he campaigned on that. He campaigned, whether I agree with him, he campaigned on it, and the people voted for him.
The
And so you don't take the people's voice away. They're angry now, but they should, and hopefully it would. They would say, okay, you know what? We're gonna vet next time. We're gonna do our homework better next time.
a petition regarding a recall referendum is going around Chicago. What are your thoughts on the referendum, and do you think it's time to have a recall law on the books in Chicago?
For a mayor, I don't think it's I don't think personally, I don't think it's time to have a recall. But you again, times are changing. I listen to my constituents. I think that's something you take to the community, and if the community overwhelmingly vote that a recall provision is needed, I will support my community for that. If they don't, then I won't support it.
We're going to table this because we're running out of time for our 6 p.m. show. We're going to take this to Facebook Live and ask more questions if you willing to
No,
stay.
always,
Uh,
absolutely.
okay, so we'll have part two coming up and shortly on Facebook Live. Thank you so much. Thanks to Earl Winfrey, our executive producer, Wanda, who's behind the scenes. Stay with us. Stay tuned momentarily.